A comment that I've gotten quite a bit is what would have happened if Batman was in The Boys? Well, for starters, I want to say this. We all looked at Black Noir as somewhat like the Batman of The Boys universe, right? The Boys has their own parodies on like every single character, right? We have Homelander, who is the parody of Superman, Black Noir, the parody of Batman, Maeve, the parody of Wonder Woman. We have all of these people that are parody or parodies of different characters. But let's not get it twisted. Black Noir is a little bit different than Batman. And by a little bit, I mean quite a bit different. The differences with Black Noir aren't really the main reason why I'm making this video. But at the end of the day, Black Noir is superhuman. Like, he has actual superpowers. And we know Batman doesn't. But we all know Batman has quite a few different layers to him, and I feel like that might be a bit of an understatement because there's quite a few layers to Batman. But what would have happened if he was teleported to the world of The Boys? Well, in this What If, we'll approach that idea, right? From the very beginning, Batman is going through his normal day-to-day life, right? Or night-to-night life. Now, we have Batman doing his normal patrols, doing his normal, villain ass kicking, as we all know. And he would just do his normal stuff, maybe thwarting the Joker, thwarting the Riddler, or anybody you could possibly think of. And then bam, out of nowhere, Batman would be teleported to a different world. But here's the thing with this teleport. This version of Batman would actually be kind of in a different spot. I decided that I'm gonna go a different way with this What If, and instead of actually putting Batman in the world from the very beginning, I'm gonna put him in the world, well, when everything kind of is going on. Now, we place Batman in this world, and you have a very Flash-like effect. Everything that Batman, quote-unquote, would have done in the past in this world has already happened. Bruce Wayne already went through the whole, family drama, if you want to call it that, but the loss of his family or the loss of his parents. Bruce Wayne already went through all the training, all of the hard work, all of this stuff, and now he is Batman. So Batman is known to this world of The Boys, and I want to first start by talking about something that is very big for Batman, and that's his moral code, right? His moral code is something that is very, very, very important to the character, because as flat out as I could be, he has a whole no-kill rule, and let's just say that's gonna put him in an awkward situation. Unlike the whole idea of me doing this with Deadpool, Deadpool has no qualms about killing, and frankly, there's a lot of things that Deadpool would benefit from being in this world. Batman, on the other hand, would definitely have a bit of a detriment, or it's a detrimental factor with the idea of him not wanting to kill. Because at the end of the day, we have corrupt superheroes like Homelander and the Boys themselves that have brutal methods, way, way, way too extreme, and Batman would most likely be just disgusted by the ways they approach things. Now, don't get me wrong, Batman does give his fair share of brain trauma and all of those things, but at the end of the day, he has a massive no-kill rule. So, who would he be working with? Would he be working with the Supes? Would he work with the Boys? Would he work with no one? Well, that's probably what would end up happening. Batman would probably end up not working with anybody, being more of a solo entity. Now, would he have some relation to the government? Probably. He would probably have minor relations to the government for information, and also if the government really needed help. And that would be mostly filtered through Mallory. Mallory would definitely have tabs on Batman, quote unquote, and would relay him information about what's happening and also what's going on. Now, Batman would make his own decisions on how he would approach certain circumstances though, so don't get it twisted. This is not a Batman who has, a flexible killing rule by any means. At least that's the way I would definitely see Batman going down. But with that said, there is a possible downfall of Batman. And at the end of the day, the show itself and the Boys universe is brutal. So Batman may even have to push his own limits physically, mentally, morally, everything, to basically approach the best way he can in this no holds barred type of world in terms of the boys. Because there is no arguments to be made where if you're comparing DC to the boys is way less in terms of power. Nowhere near as strong and overpowered as the DC universe is, but the fact that everybody has no issue killing is definitely an awkward situation. Now, I will say, Batman would be able to keep up with a lot of these beings, a lot of these super powered beings. I know it might sound wild, especially coming from, well, the idea that Batman is a human and that's it. He doesn't have any superpowers, nothing like that. But Batman's tech, Batman's, probable tech that he created even throughout this time and throughout the ages of basically trying to take down these supes would definitely benefit and help him quite a bit. But in terms of his physical prowess, his martial arts, and all of the above, he would be able to take down quite a few of these supes that he would probably end up taking on. I mean, I could see Batman maybe not being in terms of, strength or raw strength, being on the level of someone like Black Noir. He might not be just on that level, but he might be pretty damn close. I mean, he's probably a lot closer than most would possibly imagine, but at the end of the day, Batman himself, yes, you could get nitty gritty and pick out little tiny bits from the comics or something like that would show that he's stronger or better and more capable than Black Noir. But the one thing that would put him over that edge would be his tech. His tech would definitely do the absolute most for Batman, especially in a world like this. But how does he deal with some of the antics of the Seven? Well, we could sit here and talk about Stormfront and that whole idea, but to be honest, there's really no reason to talk about Stormfront and that version of the Seven, because I don't think Batman would be that heavily involved in that kind of storyline. Where I definitely think he would get involved is the actual taking down of Homelander. They have a whole idea of Homelander, or basically how they're going to take down Homelander, and that's through using a weaponized person known as Soldier Boy. He learns from Mallory that Soldier Boy has obviously been locked up, but has something that has been utilized within him and has been created within him that would eliminate the compound V within someone's body. So Batman decides, or Bruce Wayne decides, to actually experiment with this idea and also with this so-called power. He thinks to himself that if he could somehow utilize this thing properly, well, let's just say he could potentially take down someone like Homelander. But at the same time, I could see Batman also just utilizing his political stance and also just, his politics and his power as, well, Bruce Wayne, as a way of trying to limit Homelander as well. At the end of the day, we did see Homelander go on trial, so there is a good chance that maybe he gets the population to actually be a little bit more against Homelander than you think. But of course, at the end of the day, Homelander and also Vought have a lot of ways of getting out of things. So I think a fight between him and Homelander would be imminent. And frankly, a fight between him and the boys would be imminent as well. And I'm gonna be honest, the boys don't stand an absolute lick of a chance against someone like Batman. Batman would pick them apart faster than you could possibly imagine, especially if he gains more intel on them. Because let's be honest, preparation, prep time, as jokey as we all talk about it, prep time, Batman can beat anybody with prep time. Truly, with prep time, Batman would be able to do quite a bit to the boys and also the heroes alike. Now, let's get back to basically what he would do with the power of Soldier Boy. Obviously, we know that Soldier Boy would eventually be awoken, and they would want to utilize him to actually kill Homelander. But Batman would have a totally different idea. Not actually utilizing, well, Soldier Boy himself, but actually utilizing the power within him. Now, of course, the real question is, how would he utilize this power? Because For one, I could see Batman just flat out not wanting or not letting the boys actually steal Soldier Boy away, especially because he's actually planning on utilizing the power that he has, but he also has no intentions of killing Homelander. He doesn't want to kill anybody. That's like the main thing in his mind right now, is that he still doesn't want to cross over that ledge. He doesn't want to eventually lead himself down that pathway. He would never want to get to that point where he's going to have this massive downfall where he's actually going to try and kill somebody, right? So his goal is to flat out steal the powers from Homelander, but not steal necessarily for him to keep, but for him to erase the powers that Homelander has and take away the strength that the person holds. Of course, throughout this time, Bruce Wayne, or the other version of him, of course, or, the non-Caped Crusader version of Batman, would be trying to get Homelander in prison, or at least get him enough to have a bad look. Because, of course, no prison is going to hold Homelander, but eventually he might be able to make something just like that, leading to kind of avoiding a confrontation. But since we're on the idea of confrontation, I could definitely see Homelander and also Batman having a confrontation, and Homelander as a last-ditch effort actually exposing who Batman is. We saw Superman do it, and it was kind of like a not necessarily a last-ditch effort, but an effort to kind of just disregard who Batman was, and also hurt him massively, because revealing someone's identity, in that circumstance, would be extremely bad for someone like Batman. And in the boys universe, now that they know who Batman is, well, let's just say that's not gonna be so good. Now, the exposure of Batman, I'm gonna be honest, is not gonna be an easy one at the end of the day, though, because frankly, Batman would probably know that Homelander can't necessarily see through zinc, so he could definitely utilize that knowledge to actually avoid being exposed. So that's not really something that I could see happening early on in the beginning of the boys, or the Batman type the boys crossover. I honestly don't think that's going to happen near the beginning, but I do think it's going to happen eventually for sure, with Homelander exposing who he is. And there definitely is going to be conflict and fights between Batman and Homelander. Of course, Homelander would have the advantage, but with how much utility and how many things that Batman has, it definitely wouldn't surprise me if he somewhat holds his own, right? If you add Batman to the fray with Maeve and Soldier Boy and all these people head to head with Homelander, I think they have a totally different kind of outlook on if they can actually beat him. And frankly, there's probably a good chance they can. And I would say that maybe if he decides, hey, like, I'm going to team up with them, that they would win. But let's be honest, there's a large chance that Batman wants nothing to do with the boys, because at the end of the day, the boys are not good. Like, they're in terms of just how ethically bad they are, in terms of their outlook on everything, in terms of Billy Butcher, Batman would want no role in terms of leading the boys. He would think that they're just way too much of a wild card, right? Every single one of them is just too big of a wild card. So he feels probably on his own that he needs to work independently to take down Vought, to take down the boys, to take down whoever isn't going to follow in line with proper moral ethics, with the idea of refusing to actually kill. Because a version of Batman who actually, abides by his no-kill rule is honestly a version of Batman that frankly would have some difficulties throughout this world. But luckily, I think with the information he's getting from Mallory and stuff like that, he would get his hands on a completely renovated and renewed suit that would be very similar to his Injustice suit that was threaded with kryptonite. And instead of kryptonite, it's actually the power that, well, Soldier Boy has. It's lined within the suit, so when he approaches and he starts beating on Homelander, it's actually going to restrict Homelander's usage of his own powers and restrict Homelander eventually to the point that he may lose his powers entirely. So the fight with Soldier Boy versus Homelander, there's two ways I can actually see this happening, because obviously we're going to skip past the whole Stormfront thing, where I don't think Batman would be as involved as you would possibly think. But the Soldier Boy part, I definitely think he'd be involved in. Now, we start with, obviously, a fight with Soldier Boy, Homelander, and then probably a Batman who has a suit that is enhanced by Soldier Boy's powers. Now, this would be an easy win for the boys and also Batman, but here's the thing. Batman doesn't want to deal with the boys, and especially because the boys would decide that they want to kill Homelander, even after taking away Homelander's powers. Now, this is not something that would be okay with Batman. Batman would definitely turn on the boys, or if you could even call it that, because he never really was, on their side for the most part. He would definitely turn on the boys and shut down this whole ordeal. Now, would he be able to do that as flawlessly with someone like Starlight there, with someone like obviously Soldier Boy and all of these people? Would he actually be able to do this? And I honestly think yes. Batman, yes, would have some struggles with Billy Butcher and his power and stuff like that, but with how badly everybody was kind of beaten and torn down with the whole Soldier Boy turn, and of course, Soldier Boy is still going to turn in this way, but it would just turn out to be that Homelander would be defeated a lot easier, but Soldier Boy would turn and everybody would turn, and we would have this whole all-out rumble. I think Batman, as calculated as he is, would be able to determine how he's able to kind of maintain his stamina and stuff like that, and he would still be able to kind of fend for himself massively here in this situation. And honestly, there's no world that he allows some last Gambit Starlight power up to actually defeat him, in my opinion. I mean, he has all the gadgets to shut it down. He has all the ability to shut it down. The whole, the flash, the lights, and all of these things. Like, there's just no way, in my opinion, that Batman would be foiled right here and now. But another way I could see this going down, and personally the way I think it would go down, is that Homelander and Batman would face off in a duel 1-on-1. Now, how would we get there is the real question, right? And the way we would get there, frankly, in my opinion, is that, of course, we have Batman creating that same suit, that suit being powerful enough to actually subdue or eventually eliminate Homelander's powers through exposure. But on top of that, I don't think Soldier Boy would be awakened and taken away. I do believe, though, that Batman would make sure, even if it's not in your typical fashion, that he would have his 1-versus-1 against Homelander with gadgets, with all of this weaponry that Batman personally can utilize, that has, the powers of Soldier Boy, or that power that was deep within him, to utilize it to cancel out and also get rid of the powers of Homelander. I truly believe this could possibly lead to a completely subdued Homelander, someone who, well, has no powers anymore and can now be put away for good. And frankly, Bruce Wayne, the politician type of person, all of those things, how he can now help find Homelander guilty as charged. And this would lead to Homelander going away into prison, but not in prison as a actual superhero or having superpowers, but flat out being defeated, gone with his powers, and now he's just a normal human being, something he would despise absolutely. Now, one of the two last ways I could actually see this going down is Batman actually making a prison with the powers of Soldier Boy. So let's say everything goes exactly the same. Soldier Boy, they fight Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy fights Homelander, excuse me. And, that whole fight goes on. Batman helps out to the best of his ability, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually, Batman or Bruce Wayne utilizes his pull, his power to actually find Homelander guilty. He gets a lot of people on his side. He pushes for it massively. And eventually, Homelander is found guilty on all charges, and this would lead them to actually imprison him. And with Homelander thinking that he could just bust out whenever he wants, that would not be the case. He would actually have a prison that utilizes the power of Soldier Boy to actually maintain and suppress the power of Homelander and basically make it so he's a normal human in captivity. And it would kind of be your Superman-esque prison from Injustice. If you remember the Red Sun, I believe what it was, Red Sun like prison from Injustice that basically kept Superman in check and completely got rid of his powers entirely, but allowed him to walk around like a normal human being. Not like Kryptonite, where Kryptonite would make him feel drastically weak, but the Red Sun would just eliminate his powers for the meantime. And this would be something very similar in Homelander's case. Now you may be wondering, what is the last version of Batman could I possibly be thinking of? Well, the last version of Batman is someone that is more brutal, someone that would push his limits physically, mentally, and would completely flip this world on its head. We're talking a Batman who's not afraid to kill, a Batman grown from this world. So he not only is completely fine with killing, but let's just say he also has an absolute grudge against supes and superheroes, or so-called superheroes. Maybe this version of Batman's origin story, instead of it being a mugger that ends his parents' lives, it's actually a supe, a corrupt supe, and Batman wants all superheroes dead. So imagine a Batman who eventually learns about a virus, takes that virus and masters it, and decides that he's going to exterminate the supes entirely. Maybe taking the virus and even combining it with the Soldier Boy like powers and making something so potent that would just absolutely obliterate the superhero population. Maybe just an evil Batman in general. This would be absolutely terrifying, because when you think about it, if you have a Batman that's not just normally teleported and he still maintains the same morals as before, because that's obviously, I want to use a what if that would, definitely have Batman with the morals he normally has. But imagine if he actually was fully raised in the world of the boys, not holding those morals of being, a good person, or not holding those morals of not killing. Batman without a no-kill rule is absolutely terrifying. And I could see him killing and ending the lives of many superheroes, including people like Homelander, through very, very drastic means. We talked about him creating a suit that would restrict or drain Homelander of his powers, but let's be honest, a darker, more corrupt, more scary version of Batman would have no fear in the idea of completely nullifying Homelander's life. And that's something that would be absolutely terrifying, something that would be, would kind of terrify many, many, many superheroes. He would basically be the true kind of like Dark Knight, the true like overwhelming, terrifying figure. I mean, of course, we remember Batman as, the kind of Dark Knight, the Crusader of the Night, and somebody who basically puts fear into these villains, so much so that they won't do crime at all. And this version of Batman could be just that for the world of the boys, but he would have to take on and basically don a way darker persona than he ever has, especially as a morally, at least somewhat morally correct Batman. But if you actually stemmed and created a Batman in the world of the boys, or at least in the eyes of the boys, I mean, this is a totally different scenario. Maybe even a Batman completely and utterly willing to experiment with Compound V, to master Compound V and utilize it himself. So take the martial arts, take the capacity for training and his complete investigative mind, and then give him superpowers. Yeah, Batman would destroy this verse in an instant, or maybe not an instant, maybe that's an over exaggeration, but would definitely put fear and strike fear into every single person in the verse. Maybe even so much so that it makes people kind of strain up. Maybe we even have more actual superheroes. But of course, that is all hypothetical. I would love to hear what you guys have to think on what would have happened if Batman was in The Boys. I know I talked a lot, but I felt like there were a lot of points I just wanted to ramble on about and talk about. I know some of you don't like when I ramble and I chat about certain ideas. Maybe I over-explain stuff that doesn't need to be over-explained. But I like talking about it, and I like explaining and talking and ranting about stuff as if it's me and the boys just chatting about some arbitrary idea that will never happen, obviously. But still, would love to hear what you guys have to say about what if Batman was in The Boys. What do you think would happen? Do you think we would get a darker version of the Batman? Do you think Batman would go about things the way I put it, or do you have a different way Batman would approach things as well? But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff if you did. And if you enjoyed this video, then YouTube believes that you'll enjoy this one, so might as well go check it out.